Hi folks, Coach Greg here with another video on indoor soccer strategies and tactics. In today's video we're going to cover defensive tactics. The first defensive tactic I want to talk about today is called delay, delay, delay. In indoor soccer, time always favors the defense. All right? So the more that you can delay, the better off your team is going to be in able to recover and set up your defense. In indoor soccer, there's always a transitioning happening. There's always something going from offense to defense or defense to offense. If you can slow this play down when you transition into defense, you're going to be in a much better position to defend against the offense that's coming at you. I want to slow that play down as much as possible. So the way to do that is to stand up, meaning to attack, or at least do an initial attack on the players. Is first of all, as soon as they get the ball, but second is try to get that attack done as early as possible in the field. Meaning, if the transition happens in their defensive end, and we're attacking, and they take possession of the ball, we want to attack them right away. If we can't get the ball, we want to try to attack back, at least take an initial attack at them in the midfield. Try to stand them up as much as possible to be able to have our defensive players get back in time. So we want to slow that play down as much as possible. The second big tactic in defense on indoor soccer is when to go man-to-man. All right? So in indoor soccer, what you want to do is you want to start to transition to man-to-man as you go backwards, as you come back in the field, as you're starting to come back towards your own goal. There are some teams, advanced teams, that can play zone in their own defense when the entire team is back. And there are some teams that can do it very well. Most teams benefit from going man-to-man as they cross back into their own defensive zone. I've seen it over and over again, from little kids all the way up to experienced adults. Most teams have more success playing a man-to-man defense in their own zone. When we transition from the midfield to the defense, that midfield section could be a little bit looser and be more like a zone defense. Particularly, people can talk. People can talk and say, you got him, you got her, she's coming down, I got him. Then that zone kind of a defense can work. But as it transitions back towards your own goal, it needs to get a lot tighter, and those people need to be right shoulder to shoulder. Your teammates need to be shoulder to shoulder with the other players, with the offensive players as they come down the field. And in many cases, a zone defense can't afford that. The next thing about defensive strategy is related to the man-to-man strategy, and that is to play close. You want to play as close as possible to that offensive player in your own zone. When I say as close as possible, I mean shoulder to shoulder, enough to be able to touch their jersey with your hand if you're over like this. You want to be close enough to be able to stick your foot right in front of that player at any time. If they get that ball and they can pop that ball with a one-touch in, as we talked about in offensive strategies, they can pop that ball in from any position with any kind of footwork. You got to be close enough to be able to handle that. In outdoor soccer, in the defensive half or the defensive third, you might give that person 3, 4, 5 yards depending on the kind of play it is and the kind of players you're playing with. Not so in indoor soccer. As any time in that inside third, they can shoot from anywhere at any time. You got to be close enough to be able to disrupt that ball from your feet, or to be able to block a shot. All right. The next defensive tactic we'll talk about is challenge quickly. We want to challenge the offensive player who has the ball as fast as possible. Again, we want to make sure that we slow their play down, and we want to challenge them and have them be able to either have to be thinking about something or lose control of that ball as quickly as possible. It does a number of things. It makes them worry about what the next thing they're going to do. It makes them not be in control of the play, and it gives our other players time to get back into position and reset. So we want to challenge them early, and we want to challenge them as quickly as possible. The next defensive strategy is don't let them shoot. And you don't want to have those players be able to shoot from anywhere on your half of the field. I've seen balls get shot from just this side, or just our own side of the midfield line. And what happens is people don't expect that ball to be coming down. Sometimes the keeper either block, can't see it, or is not expecting it. And that ball can go in from half field very easily. And when you get anywhere in close to the 1/3 line, when you get anywhere close to being into your own defensive third, any shot can happen at any time. So we want to make sure that we do not allow them to shoot at any time or have the ability to shoot. That means staying close. That means having our feet tangled in with their feet as best we can, making sure that they can't pull that ball back and pop it behind them. And we want to make sure we can not give them an opportunity to shoot as best we can, staying between that player and the goal as much as possible. Another tactic for defense, and this is hard to get used to for some people coming from outdoor to indoor, and I tell people, don't stare at the ball. Don't stare at the ball. The game is so fast in indoor soccer, and the fact that somebody can walk behind you or run behind you and be 2 feet away can be the difference between a goal and being able to keep that from happening. If you're watching the ball over here and your player ends up walking behind you or coming behind you and taking that ball and able to shoot, then you've lost that play. If you know where your player is at all times, and if you're going man to man like we talked about, and you're able to stay focused on that player, it's going to be a much more effective defense than staring at the ball. Younger kids coming in, especially coming in from outdoor to indoor, tend to stare at the ball a lot, and even experienced adult players tend to ball watch in indoor soccer. So we want to keep from watching that ball as much as possible. Another defensive tactic is to avoid a lub or a long, useless ball. In outdoor soccer, a lub can be a really good tool to be able to get the ball out of the defensive quarter or defensive third of the field and get it down and turn that defense into an offensive play. In indoor soccer, a long, useless ball is almost always backfires. It can backfire because it'll go over 3 lines, and which means it has to come back, and they have a kick coming back at you from the red line. It can be too high in the air, in which case it hits the ceiling or the nets, depending on what kind of a facility you're in, in which case, again, you're going to end up looking at that ball come right back in. Or it's just a ball that's an uncontrolled ball and it turns into a transition. Finally, if you're in a really small facility, and I've seen this happen before, a really hard, long, useless ball bounces off the back wall and ends up coming back at the defense just as fast as it came out. So long, useless balls in indoor soccer are very, very ineffective. What we want to do is to control that ball on its way out of the defensive zone. That leads me into the next defensive tactic, is trying not to dribble as best as possible in your own zone if it's crowded. What we want to do is try to get that ball out as fast as possible, and that means not necessarily dribbling. When we try to dribble out of our own third, this is true in outdoor soccer as well. We don't want to dribble in our own box a lot of times, but in indoor soccer, dribbling in our own third, you just got to make one small little mistake with an offensive player. Now, if we've got the ball, I don't want to confuse terms. If we've got the ball, we're back on offense, even though we're in our own zone. But if an opposing player tends to just tap that ball out from our feet, they're in a position to shoot automatically by virtue of the fact that we're in our own defense. So those are some of the defensive tactics. What we do is in the book we go into detail about what to do if somebody's attacking on a 1v2, 1v3, 2v2, 2v4. We go into some detail about that with some diagrams. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I look forward to seeing you next time on Indoor Soccer Strategies and Tactics. Thanks. Bye.